بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم وبعد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How's everyone? I'm good, alhamdulillah. Are you awake? Are you ready? Please turn to page 27 of your book. Have a pen near you, ideally men, that's the thing that you write with. I don't know if you still carry those with you, but it would be ideal as a student to have one, inshallah. Ladies, I know you have like three: a pen, a pencil, an eraser, maybe Tipp-Ex also. I see stationery bags coming out. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thus far in our journey, we've framed everything around three questions: why, what, and how. We've covered the why. Why should we go on an Umrah? What's the objective thereby? The what was our previous class. We looked at the meaning of Umrah, the definition, the ruling, virtues, myths, and then also the language of fiqh. And then we taught the how very briefly. How do you perform an Umrah? How many components? 5. What are they? Everyone? Ihram, then Tawaf, then Sa'i, then Halq, then Tarteeb. What does Tarteeb mean? Sequence. It must be in that sequence. So basically tonight, I'm going to unpack exactly that. Right? So I'll just fast forward the better way. Yeah? Bismillah. The fiqh of Umrah. Bismillah. Now, naturally, when learning fiqh, understand that you are learning a set of opinions based on a specific methodology. As a student, it is your duty to know which opinions, which methodology. I'm telling you this not for this class, but for all your classes. So if you go to study fiqh, you need to know, is this Shafi'i fiqh? Is this Hanafi fiqh? Is this Maliki fiqh? Is this what's the word? Non-binary, I guess, or unbinary. You need to know, right? And then beyond that, you also need to know whether this is going to be strictly according to that particular school or whether there's flexibility. So in this regard, we are focusing predominantly on the Shafi'i school, and when there is any deviation therefrom or an alternative view that you need to know about, we will explore accordingly, insha'Allah ta'ala. Tamam, any questions so far? All with me? Bismillah. So first and foremost, when you study fiqh, you study the what. We did that already. What is an Umrah? Then you study the conditions. In Arabic, those are the shurut. The shurut. Anything in fiqh is going to consist of your definition, your shurut. What are they? What's a shurut? You can't be losing me now already. What's the meaning of shurut? Conditions is on the screen. Conditions. Shurut are conditions. For example, the condition of salah, one of the conditions of salah is wudu. That also tells you how a condition works. It's necessary. Without it, you don't have the act. But it exists outside of the act itself. So the conditions of obligation. What does that mean? The conditions that must exist before Umrah would be compulsory upon you. Is that clear? The conditions that must exist before Umrah will be compulsory upon you. What are they? Islam, bulugh, sanity. Islam, that you must be Muslim. Bulugh, that you must have reached the age of puberty. This is on page 28. And sanity, that means you must have aql salim, sound mind. You must have a sound mind. Together, 1 to 3, in Arabic we call that mukallaf. Most of the time people oversimplify mukallaf and they say mukallaf means puberty. But that's not true. Baligh is puberty. Mukallaf is a combination of factors. Aql salim, sound mind. Puberty, as well as the fact that the person is in fact Muslim. But there is some further explanation. I'm just leaving it as simple as this for now, inshallah. The next one, hurriya, freedom. This one is really a moot point in classical fiqh because everyone universally now has freedom as opposed to being enslaved. Right? Islam is a religion that has laws for every circumstance. So when there was slavery, we had laws that would govern that. Now there's no slavery, so the laws are there in case it ever comes about. Then capability. Capability. This is essentially two factors. Ability in your physical self and ability in terms of your finances. Right? Because Hajj and Umrah is a physical and financial ibadah. This is where it comes from. So if financially you are not by the means, Umrah cannot be compulsory upon you. If physically you are not capable of getting yourself there and fulfilling the duties, then Umrah is not compulsory upon you specifically. You can still fulfill it, but we are just talking about it doesn't become compulsory upon you. Okay. Next, this one is specific for the ladies. And I guess these days it's like an optional point. But for our fiqh, it is a necessary point. The existence of a mahram. There must be a mahram because the Prophet ﷺ specifically stressed this point. A lady that has reached a certain age should not travel a certain distance except that with her is a mahram. Now we're going to unpack this one a bit because it really needs to be unpacked. Tamam? Then safety of the path. Safety of the path. That was the question that came, I think, in the first class about what if a war breaks out? And naturally, the fiqh steps aside and says, no. We're not going to oblige you to fulfill something that's going to risk your life. Right? So the obligation falls away. Tamam. So those are the conditions. If all of those conditions exist in a person, Umrah is compulsory upon that person. Assuming that they haven't fulfilled it before. Tayyib. Now we need to unpack the mahram question. What is a mahram? What is a mahram? Standard answer is your husband. That's actually incorrect. Completely incorrect. Your husband can never be your mahram. Otherwise, you would not have been your husband. You understand? A mahram is someone you can never ever marry. Because it's haram for you to marry that person. But culturally, we say the husband is the mahram because of the function of a mahram, right? Everything that a mahram usually takes on as a guardian would fall to the husband primarily. So, sort of acceptance of the the usage of the language, we just go with it. It's not a big deal. More importantly is understanding the requirement. All four madhahib require a mahram for travel. Requires that a lady must have a mahram for travel. The Shafi'i school allows for some leeway when it comes to obligatory duties, like Hajj, the obligatory Hajj, Umrah, the obligatory Umrah, and specifically when she travels with upright women in a group of upright ladies. Now, that's the Shafi'i opinion. Right? If you're going to go fatwa shopping, you are guaranteed to find other views. I can tell you what they are, right? And I've written some of them as well. But I can also talk about them and add the caution, the caveat that most people just pass by. Right? When you fatwa shop, you're looking for the opinion that suits you. Right? Fine. It's a valid opinion. No one can stop you from taking it. Bismillah. But let me just paint a picture for you quickly. I've seen this again and again, and I acknowledge and accept the view is valid, and if anybody chooses to follow it, Bismillah. The view states, and it's held by the likes of Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, and others as well. The view states that if the road is safe, there's no risk, right? There's no risk that we anticipate. And you are able to guarantee a safety at the point of departure and at the point of arrival, and a point of arrival is also going to be safe. Then, based on evidence, and I'll tell you what the evidence is, it's valid. She can do that. What's the evidence? The fact that the Prophet ﷺ once said that a time will come, it's a sign of Qiyamah, a time will come where a lady will leave from a particular point, far from Makkah, and she will make her way all the way to perform Hajj, right? And the idea was that it will be so safe for her. And he doesn't, in this narration, say anything about it being a problem that she's alone. He's basically just saying this as a fact, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they draw evidence from that. It's not the majority view. I've seen with my own eyes, not too long ago, a young lady going on Umrah, taking this view, right? Unfortunately, most people don't even worry about the view. They just, khoy, right? But this young lady, okay, she took the view. She found out, took the view, went. And she was assaulted in Medina. Somebody tried to harass her in Medina, physically so. So I was one of the group leaders at the time. And by the time the news came to me, I'm not a mahram. I'm not a husband. I'm not a father. She was essentially traumatized, right? Alhamdulillah, nothing serious happened, but there was a serious attempt. So by the time the news came to me, the hotel already dealt with the guy who was working there, and he was gone. But this is now the beginning of the Medina trip. She now had to spend the rest of her Umrah with this trauma, and there's no father, brother, husband, or anyone else that can seriously be a means of protection. Of course, the other women are there consoling her, and as the group leader, I'm going to give her advice and the like. But herein, I saw the wisdom of Islam once again. It's not oppressive in that we don't want women to be free. It's protective in that we don't want women to have to go through this, right? This is the law and how it is designed to protect you. So when you take this type of route, take it with knowledge that there's a reason why the majority went the way they did. There's a reason why the evidence is what it is, right? You are completely privileged to take the opinion because it's valid, but know what you're getting yourself into. Bismillah. We move on, inshallah. The integrals once again: ihram, tawaf, then sa'i, then halq, then tartib. You still awake? Bismillah. First things first, we said ihram from where? From the miqat. What is the word miqat? What does it mean? The word miqat means a place or a time. A specific place or a specific time. So, for Hajj and Umrah, there's an appointed time and there's an appointed space that it must be initiated from and within. For Hajj, we've already spoken about this. Can you go into ihram for Hajj now? Why not? Why not? Because it's not the months of Hajj. So the miqat of time for Hajj are the months of Hajj. Can you go into ihram for Umrah now? Absolutely. Any time in the year except when you are on Hajj and you are encamped on Mina for Hajj, you can't perform Umrah during that time. Right? So Umrah, the time allocation is much wider. Right? As for place, the miqat represents the border around which you cannot cross for Hajj or Umrah except in the state of ihram. I'll repeat. The miqat, in terms of place, is the border over which you cannot cross for the purposes of Hajj or Umrah except in the state of ihram. Tamam? Those are the names of the places. Repeating them a bunch of times is going to familiarize yourself with them, inshallah. Dhul Hulayfa is the one that most of us use because we come from Medina going to Makkah. Most people call it Bi'r Ali, Dhul Hulayfa, right? It's also the furthest away from the Kaaba, by the way. The others are Juhfa, used by Syria, Egypt, and Morocco. Yalamlam, used by Yemen, India, Pakistan, and South Africa, flying directly from Cape Town into Makkah or Jeddah. Qarnul Manazil, Najd and Ta'if. And if you go on a visit to Ta'if, then you also have the opportunity to come back into Makkah from this particular miqat as well, Qarnul Manazil. And then Dhatu Irq, which is essentially what is used from the Iraqi side. That's just the names, know it, and know which ones are relevant to you. Now, I need you to look at the zones. You see the picture in your book on page 33, and on the slide, the big circles there. Right? People confuse this all the time. So for once and for all, let us learn it well, inshaAllah. In the middle there, it's not the Kaaba, that's Masjidul Haram. What you would refer to as the Haram. Right? That's the Haram. That circle, the first circle around it is called the Haram area. You would likely be living in the Haram area if you're going on Hajj or Umrah. This is whether you live there, Zamzam Towers, Hilton, Continental, Dar Tawheed, Hayat, Makisaki, all the way down Ajyad, and you're taking a shuttle in. You live in the Haram. Right? When you initially drive into Makkah, you'll see borders, or not you won't see borders, you'll see boards that represent the border that states the Haram starts here. That's not the miqat. That's the first circle. It's the Haram area. Everybody with me? This is a big confusion with the Hujjaj all the time. So that's the Haram area. Outside of the Haram area, yani between the miqat and the Haram, is called the Hil. It's the opposite of the word Haram in Arabic. Halal, haram, hil, haram. See the comparison? Okay. So, that is the hil, but it's still inside the miqat. You get me? You with me? Right. Then you get the next circle, which is of course the miqat. The outer circle is the miqat. And then you see outside the miqat, you have Medina. Medina is outside the miqat. So you go to Medina, assuming you go to Medina first, you go to Medina, and then when you leave to go to Makkah, everybody puts on the ihram clothing. Because the miqat that you're going to go to is very close. It's like 10 minutes drive out of Medina and then you're there. That is Dhul Hulayfa. Now you are at the miqat. Then that 4 to 8 hour drive, depending on the bus and the driver and how you're going to go, that is through the hill until you reach the Haram. When you're in Makkah, then all of a sudden you see these signs that say Haram starts here. That's not the miqat. You're already in the miqat, right? This is now entering Haram area. Okay. What makes it Haram area? It's the land that is specifically allocated as Haram by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's rules that apply there that don't apply elsewhere. You can't just kill animals in there. You can't just uproot plants in there. Yes, they do all the time, but they've got reasons for doing so. I mean, at random, you can't do it, right? And so on and so forth. That's a haram. Now, why is all of this relevant? This is relevant when it comes to the rules of the ihram, right? Now, you already know the various names. Here's an issue here. Look where Jeddah is. Look where Jeddah is. Is it inside the miqat or outside of the miqat? So Jeddah, there's a way that it can be outside of the miqat, right? Jeddah is not just one place, it's the city and it's the airport, right? So many scholars have ruled that the airport can be considered, outside of the miqat, but there's a caveat. It's only a miqat for people coming from that direction. Each of the mawaqit is dedicated depending on the direction that you're coming from. If you're flying from Cape Town and you're going to Makkah first, then you already fly into the miqat over Yalamlam. You have to be in ihram already. You can't wait until you land in Jeddah and then go into ihram. It's not a miqat for you. If you were coming from that direction, I don't know what that direction would be, maybe Mauritania or something, right? Allah knows best. But only if you're coming from that direction, then it's a miqat for you. Right? So don't confuse the issue about where you must go into ihram. Next point. Tan'im, Masjid Aisha, is not a miqat. It's inside the miqat. It's adna al-hil, as the Arabic states. It's the closest hil. What does that mean? It's the closest non-haram area to you. You with me? Because for you living in Makkah, for you living inside Makkah, inside the Haram, you don't just put on your ihram from where you are. For Umrah, you have to go outside of the Haram. But you don't have to go all the way outside of the miqat, you just have to go outside of the Haram. And the closest point to do that is Masjid Aisha, Tan'im. There are others as well, outside of the Haram area, but most people go to Masjid Aisha because it's the closest. Is everybody with me? But you cannot go there and say, no, I'm going to go in my casual clothes, go to Makkah, then go out to Tan'im, then put on my ihram and go in. Because I see this is a growing trend. People think that you can just do that. That's not a miqat. If you cross the miqat without ihram and you're on your way for Hajj or Umrah, you have two options. Option one, you go back to that same miqat. Option two, you continue but you pay a dam. There's no third option. Right? That's if you cross the boundary for Hajj or for Umrah specifically. That's also important. Any questions so far? No. Yes. To dress yourself in ihram, not put yourself in ihram, those are two different things. Now, we're going to get to that. Anyone else? Naam? Mm-hmm. Correct. Why? Because the ihram site for residents of Makkah is to just go outside of the haram. Tamam? Anyone else? I just want to get to the sisters quickly, yes? Dhul Hulayfa. Yes. It's alright, let her talk. It's okay. Bismillah. Yes. Then you just go out to the nearest hill. The nearest hill, which for you would be Masjid Aisha. If you want to go explore the others, you're welcome to as well. Anyone else? I want to move on now, right? Bismillah. Okay, good question. Bus driver. Yeah, people ask the question, but they know the answer. Look at your bus driver. Is your bus driver in ihram? Why not? Yeah, he's not going for Hajj or Umrah. You with me? So you know the answer to the question if you just look at the bus driver. He's in and out all day. He's not in ihram because he's not going to go perform tawaf and sa'i and halq and so on. He's just going to go there, drop you, probably go visit KFC or something and then go back. No, what do? They go to Al-Bayk. Yeah. Yes? Wherever you live, that's where you are resident. If you go to a place with the intention of being there for more than 3 days, you live there. In Islam, you don't have an address. Your address is where you are. You with me? Okay. We move on, inshallah ta'ala. There's more to it. If you intend Umrah, you may not pass the miqat without ihram. Crossing without it and not returning obliges a dam, which is the sacrifice of a sheep, and there's alternatives also. We'll speak about that when we speak about the dam. Flying to Jeddah, put on your ihram before boarding, because normally there's a connecting flight, right, from somewhere close by, depending on the airlines that you take, Doha or Dubai or Istanbul, whichever airlines you take. There's where you're going to put on your ihram clothing. If you are, if you need your space and your comfort, and I'm very comfortable with putting on ihram in the bathroom of an airplane. But if you need space and you want all that luxury shower and all those things, then you prepare all of that before you board. Usually it's a short flight. Putting on your ihram clothing doesn't mean that you're in ihram. Right? Now. Mm-hmm. Correct. So there's two options here. Normally on the Arab airlines, they announce when they're going to cross the miqat, right? And the hostesses will tell you that they're going to announce and so on. But my advice is, look at the time of landing, right? This is also something you must be careful with because your ticket is printed Yeah, according to the time zones. But you need to know before you get there, before you go on your journey, when are we going to land? When are we expected to land? Right? And just make sure that you make your niyyah an hour before that, an hour, 2 hours before that. It's while the plane is descending that they actually cross the miqat, while they've already started going down. So if you wait until they announce, then that whole thing of people going to the bathroom and all of that, you won't be able to do that. You should be in your ihram clothing already and just say your niyyah. My honest advice is this. When you get on the plane, right, after you've now settled and everything, just make your niyyah. 1 or 2 hours longer in ihram isn't going to hurt anyone. But people have this thing, ek is nou vasgemaak, Like, when you're on Hajj, you're there for days, you're in ihram. For days. It's not that hard, right? Yes, there is a phenomenon as ihram itch. Nawaitu and so on, and then you start itching. Right? But we'll speak about that, inshallah. We'll speak about that. So, rather be safe than sorry. Get on the plane, settle down, make your niyyah. Right? And then you just start, labbaik Allahumma labbaik. We'll get into the specifics of getting into ihram shortly. Right? Ihram tells in your carry-on, obviously, but help each other out because lots of people check the ihrams in and then, you're in trouble. If you're going via Medina, your ihram is at Bir Ali. They have full facilities there. But just a point of caution, when you get there, it's the easiest place to get lost because the entire thing looks the same from every angle. So just note your bus and your meeting point. Also, Hujjaj and Mu'tamirun prepare for ihram at their hotels, not at the miqat. Because the bus is just going to stop there, go 2 rak'at, come out, make the niyyah and go. It's not time for you to go make a ghusl there and shave and, there's no time for that. That you do in Medina. But you can do it there. They do have facilities for that. So all you're going to do at Dhul Hulayfa is get there, pray 2 rak'at of ihram if there's appropriate time for that, and proceed. For Makkah residents, to repeat, you will be a Makkah resident when you get to Makkah. If you're going to Johannesburg and you're going to stay there for 4 days, you're a resident of Johannesburg. You can no longer pray the Jam and Qasr from the moment you get there because you are a resident there. Tamam? Then they would go to Masjid Aisha, crossing with no intention of ihram, for business, for family, to go stay in a hotel somewhere. Then no ihram is required. You enter ihram later as a resident of Makkah. This particular point is vital for the sisters with regards to your haid. Remember that? We're going to get back to it in a moment. What is ihram? We're saying the whole time ihram, ihram. What is ihram? Ihram is the state that you are in. It's a sacred state in which certain normally halal things become haram. That's why it comes from the same root letters. This state is entered by the intention in the heart. You can go into ihram without uttering a word. You can go into ihram without uttering a word. In Islam, you are never required to utter your intention, but it's recommended as a means of assisting you to understand what you are doing and to be acutely conscious of your purpose. So, ihram, therefore, is not the 2 white cloths that men wear, or a woman in ordinary clothing, or the white clothing that women wear. In fact, a woman in ordinary clothing, like the clothes that you have on right now, could be your ihram clothing. It doesn't have to be white. And for Cape Townian sisters especially, I'm going to kindly caution you, right? There's this trend to want a white ihram. Bismillah. But for heaven's sake, make sure that it is not see-through. You are in the bright Makkah sun, and you will definitely perspire. And that's a very embarrassing situation to be in, right? And you don't want to compromise on your ibadah because your tawaf is like salah. If your aura becomes exposed, it's invalid. Right? So be careful. Go for the white if you want, but do whatever it takes in order to secure yourself correctly. No one said that it must be a particular color. In fact, for men, we go with white because the Prophet ﷺ recommended it. But if you see somebody in an orange ihram, it's valid. It's valid, right? Okay. In fact, just to give you the proper perspective, in the past, Sauk used to take helpers with on Hajj, but then they used to make them like promise that they're not going to go into ihram on Arafah because they're going with as helpers, so they mustn't get Hajj type of thing. And at that time, I used to think to myself, you know what? I could do that. I could go in ihram. Nobody would know because this could be my ihram. I would have to pay a dam and I'm breaking the rules of ihram, but I'm still in ihram because ihram is not the clothes. Ihram is the state. The state requires you to comply with certain rules. But you can break the rules, make them up. Doesn't mean you're no longer in that state. Why am I saying all of this? Do I want you to be naughty and do all of these things? No. I'm saying this so that you can understand the essence of ihram. What really matters. Tamam? Equally, donning the towels or uttering words doesn't by itself enter you into the state of ihram. If I get you at Dhul Hulayfa, right, and I say, listen, just repeat after me, and I say the intention of ihram, but I don't tell you what you're saying, and you say it, are you in ihram? No. So the words are not what matter, it's the state of the heart. Even the talbiyah is not compulsory, but the talbiyah is actually more important that it be uttered than any particular intention. You with me? Because the talbiyah is something that is genuinely something that should be uttered. Now, I'm going to say something now. I want you to remember this, right? I planned this. I planned saying this. If you want an average umrah, then just go with the flow and do what everybody else does. You'll do fine. If you want an excellent umrah, just see what everybody else does and make sure, no, don't make sure you don't do it. If you want an excellent umrah, don't just go with the flow. Don't just go with, oh, but everybody's doing it like this. Or the group is saying this. Because I promise you, you'll be surprised as to how many people actually take the time out to learn and how many people, I've been coming on umrah for years. Right? And I learned in 1949 how to do umrah. And I've got all this experience. You can't tell me. It's shockingly ubiquitous to find people just doing things that there's no basis for whatsoever. And you will hurt your own self by just listening to the crowd. And this applies to Umrah as much as it does to Hajj. Hajj is worse. So much worse. Because of the tent situation, everybody's a mufti there. But Umrah, you find the same thing. So you learn to the point where you're confident enough to do the entire Umrah by yourself. Now you'll never be shaken. Now, the moment you're busy, I promise you, right? You'll be busy preparing your ihram in the hotel, putting on your clothes. And then you put an underarm because you're preparing your ihram. Somebody's going to stop you. Hey, you're in ihram. No, I'm not, auntie. I'm just preparing. Do you understand? So, I'm confident if somebody tells me something because I know what's right and what's wrong. I want you to have that as well. And it's really not that complex. Something as simple as this, right? I used to have a leather strap at the time, and the leather strap has this stitches in it. So somebody came to me and said, Maulana, stitches. I said, brother, this is not the type of stitches that you're thinking about. This is completely fine. We'll get there, inshallah ta'ala. The point that I'm trying to make is confidence comes from knowledge. So learn these rules confidently. Tamam? Okay. Before you utter the intention in your heart, on your lips, this is how you prepare for an ihram. A ghusl. This is sunnah for everyone, even for ladies in hayd or nifas. Because you are not performing the ghusl as an act of ibadah in the same way that you would normally do it. You are performing it specifically to clean yourself to go into Makkah, right? Then trim the nails, remove underarm and pubic hair. None of this is of course possible later, so you must do all of this now. Perfume the body generously, right? And use good antiperspirant or deodorant or something, because you're going to be, for an extensive time, you're going to be active, you're going to be moving constantly, you're going to be perspiring, and you can't do anything about your body odor afterwards, right? So before the time. Note that you are not to perfume the ihram garments themselves, but your body, right? Then you put on the ihram clothing. Then if it is an okay time to make salah, I'm assuming you know what that means, but I'll explain. There's certain times where you're not supposed to make salahs that doesn't have a preceding reason. That would be after Fajr until sunrise and after Asr until sunset. You can make Tahiyat al-Masjid because it has a preceding reason. You can make a Qada Salah, you can make a Fard Salah, but you can't just decide, okay, I'm going to make 2 rakat for Allah's sake. Those are prohibited times. So you have to check, because the reason for ihram comes after the salah. There's no preceding reason. So you can't make the 2 sunnahs of ihram if it's after Fajr or if it's after Asr. However, you can combine this salah with any current salah. So if you get to the miqat, for example, and it's Dhuhr salah or it's Asr salah, you don't need to pray a specific 2 raka'at for your ihram. You simply pray that Dhuhr salah, like you combine Tahiyat al-Masjid with whatever salah you pray when you enter the masjid. The same applies here. And then you just intend for your ihram as well. Okay? The clothing of ihram. Men, 2 plain cloths, preferably white. The izar is a wraparound at the bottom. It must cover from beyond the navel, on top of the navel, till below the knees at all times. Now for the men, especially those who have the, what do you call this thing? The paunch, right? This is a ihram. You must adjust properly. Yeah, because you must know exactly where on your paunch you're going to tie that ihram, right? And it can't be underneath your belly button. So it must be above your belly button. So practice that if you need to before you get there, inshallah. Or alternatively, meet me on the road and let's lose the paunch, inshallah. Right? Next is the rida, which is the cover over the shoulders. Sandals must expose the heel and the toes. Right? So your beach thongs is fine. The sandals that covers the top of the foot for Shafi'is, that's fine. As long as the toes is open and the heel is open. Hanafis have slightly different rules here, but that's their set of rules, right? A belt, a money belt, anything at the bottom is fine. Velcro on the bottom thing is fine. Tying it, the bottom one has a lot of leeway. You know why? Because it must be very secure. Because if it's not, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. That is a musibah. Brothers, make sure your ihram is fast. Right? So there's a lot of leeway there. You can wear a belt, you can wear many things there. But you can't have it sewn. Right? The rida, the top one, you can't have sewn. The rida is the throw over, shawl if you'd like. The mantle, the rida is the top part. The top one, don't tie it. The only thing you can do there is a safety pin, put it through, and it holds the rida together. I find that the safety pin isn't necessary, but it just depends on how experienced you are with the ihram, I think. Because what the rule states is
Pi, Jonathan, or Pi?
Wear your ihram over your shoulders all the time. The only time you uncover your shoulder is when you start the tawaf. And you uncover the right shoulder, throw it over this left side, right? and you make your whole tawaf like this. A lot of people mistake the rule of Ramal with this. So then after 3 rounds, they stop the Ramal and they stop this. You make your whole tawaf like this. When you're done, you cover it again. There's no walking around showing your biceps. You cover it before you make salah. It's considered makruh to go and pray salah with your shoulder open when you can close it. Okay. For women, her usual modest clothing, there's 2 bands though. No gloves, no niqab. Nothing fastened to the face. Any ladies in niqab, in ihram, the rule changes, right? Ladies have different ways of approaching this. The Shafi'i school has an interesting recommendation, and I'm yet to see a single lady take up this recommendation. I've seen ladies ignore the rule, wear the niqab, pay the dam, because they don't want to expose their face. I don't like that. I don't think that's wise. I believe that our decisions must always be dependent on what Allah decides. If Allah decides this is modesty now, then that's modesty now. And if tomorrow He decides it's not modesty, then you don't wear it, right? So what does the madhab allow? Because this is difficult. Imagine a lady's closing her face all her life, and now she's going on Hajj or Umrah, and the whole ummah is going to see her face. I mean, men, you probably can't relate. But ask the sisters, it's a big deal. So what does she do? The Shafi'i school says she can hina her face. It's a ajib one, eh? She can hina her face. Have you ever seen anybody doing that? So there you go. And then I already explained ittiba, which is bearing the right shoulder. Men, this is during the tawaf only. Before and after, you keep your shoulders covered. Any questions so far? Only for that which we covered so far, right? There's more to come. Is it about what's still coming? Okay, just hold on. The niyyah. You don't need to say it, but this is how. Nawaitul umrata wa ahramtu biha lillahi ta'ala. Now the next part is a clause that everyone should say, but not everybody does. Allahumma mahalli haythu habastani. Oh Allah, my place of release is wherever I am withheld. Adding this clause is a very important and beautiful feature. And I've seen it in the last time I went on Umrah, it came in amazingly handy. This clause is that if you fall ill or something happens and you can't go further, then you just come out of ihram there and then. You don't need to pay a dam. You don't have to do any of the other rituals. Because you've added a clause, oh Allah, if I'm withheld anyway, then that is my place of release. Now, we used to recommend it specifically for the sisters in case the haid comes and they just went into ihram. But now I just do it with everyone. In the last Umrah, a brother was at Tan'im, made the niyyah, got into the taxi and slipped. And his ankle, I don't know what exactly happened, but he couldn't go any further. And alhamdulillah, we just made that niyyah, and so he just needed to come out of ihram. So that's just a clause. Remember it. If you don't know it in Arabic, you don't need to. Oh Allah, I'm entering the state of ihram for the sake of Umrah. And if I'm withheld at any point, that is my place of release. Right? Allah understands all languages, right? Bismillah. The talbiyah. From the moment you utter those words, consciously going into ihram, there's one sunnah that trumps every other verbal sunnah for you until you start your tawaf. Like on a normal day, you can say, look here, I'm going to make dhikr. La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, salawat, istighfar, etc. But this isn't a normal day. This is you in ihram. So the most important utterance for you from this point forward, لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك. What does it mean? Ya I am, O Allah, Ya I am. You have no partner, Ya Allah, Ya I am. Verily all praise, all favors are only for you, and for you is the kingdom. You have no partners. I, if I'm your group leader, inshallah, will utter this for 5 minutes. Then we get another buta on. You will utter it for another 5 minutes. The drive is how long? 4 to 6 to 8 hours, depends. So what do you think you're going to do for the rest of that time? You can sleep. Sleep is good because you need to prepare yourself for the Umrah. So nothing wrong with sleeping. But if you're not sleeping and you're not doing your talbiyah, then I don't know what you're doing because it's a problem. Anything else is a problem. Any conversation, silence, sitting in ghafla, sitting on your phone, it's a problem. You got your whole life to do that. You got a couple of hours in ihram. Keep it sacred. Again, if you want an average umrah, just go with the flow. If you want an excellent umrah, then these are the things you will be taking seriously. You might be the only person on the bus. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharik. It's okay. It's your umrah, not theirs. So my suggestion is get yourself a tasbih, whichever one you're comfortable with, as a form of a reminder. Doesn't even need to have accurate numbers on there. You just khoi. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik the entire time. Clock it. Right? Because you want to get as much out of this umrah as possible. And every moment that you're not uttering the talbiyah is a moment you wasted. Unless you were sleeping or in the toilet or genuinely, ordering food somewhere. But most of the time, it's your talbiyah. The specific sunnah is that men do this out loud. Women should do this with quieter voices, as is normally the case with modesty. Cape Townian women, mashallah. Until the tawaf begins, we all just make dhikr loud, so it's a bit of a difficult one, Until the tawaf begins, this is what you are doing. Here's the key that the fiqh emphasizes repeatedly. Whenever there's a change, rejuvenate the talbiyah. So in other words, you start outside of the bus at Dhul Hulayfa. Then you get into the bus after you've made your intention and everybody's doing the talbiyah. Now you're driving. As the bus pulls away, you're doing the talbiyah. If the bus comes to a stop, you do the talbiyah again. If you stop at a place for meals or something, then when you get to the place, you do the talbiyah. When you start moving again, you do the talbiyah. If it comes time to salah, you pray the salah, then you do the talbiyah. When you come out, you do the talbiyah. So every change is a moment to rejuvenate the talbiyah. This is specifically mentioned in the fiqh. I'm telling you now, 99% people don't do it. 99% of people don't do it. When do they do it? At the beginning with the group leader, and at the end when you get into Makkah and they start making the dhikr. You can choose. Do you want an average umrah or do you want an umrah of excellence? Tamam? Now, the restrictions of ihram. Right, now we get into the rules and the regulations. The restrictions of ihram. Where do we begin? So this is an overview, right? This list here is an overview. In your book, it starts on page 44. Oh yes, the book was updated. The book was updated. I made the text bigger, and the dua book also made the text bigger. So we don't have any new ones, but the new ones are coming soon, inshallah. So what page do you have it? 35. Okay, the restrictions of ihram. For men, what is prohibited? Please learn this well. Fitted, sewn garments, including closed shoes. What does this mean? For all your life, you probably heard the word stitches, stitched garments. And that's the incorrect English translation to use. It's sewn. So this here is two pieces of fabric that is sewn together to fit an arm. That is what is prohibited in ihram. You understand? It's sewn together. Not that there's a stitch on there or a patch on there. You can have an ihram full of patches. It's absolutely fine. You can have an ihram that has a hem at the bottom so that the what you call that stuff? The cotton frills doesn't, get worse and wear out the ihram. That's all valid. What is not valid is for you to wear something like a sock or a shoe or something that is sewn around your neck or around your arm. That is what is prohibited. You with me? So if you have stitches on your watch strap, right? That is not what is prohibited. If you have stitches on your, maybe you have a leather frame or something like that and you've got stitches on there, that's not a problem. If you have stitches on your sandal, maybe you're wearing a leather beach thong sandal and you got like some stitches on there, that's not a problem, right? So don't confuse the issue. What is also prohibited for men only is covering the head directly. No kufiya, no turban, no hoodie, right? You can't even cover your head with part of your ihram or put like a blanket over. You can cover it indirectly. Umbrella, right? The roof of a car. Sometimes people refuse to get inside cars. They would sit on top of the cars because my head can't be covered. But that's indirect covering. Okay? No. Yes, of course, it's indirect covering. For ladies specifically, the prohibition is against gloves and covering the face directly. Those sisters, the Shafi recommendation I know is a bit of a weird one for most contemporary people. But what I've seen sisters doing, and some scholars recommending for sisters who insist on wearing the niqab, is a peak cap with the niqab hanging off on the front as opposed to on the face directly. Okay? Then, the rest of the rules apply across the board for everyone. Is julle nog wakker? Kan ek aangaan? How long have you been going? Not an hour yet. Okay, bismillah. For everyone, deliberate removal of hair or the clipping of nails. Deliberate removal of hair or the clipping of nails. Deliberate as opposed to accidental. If you remove one deliberately, that's a minor penalty. If you remove two deliberately, that's a double penalty. If you remove three or more, that's the full fidya or the full dam. You got me? This is for hairs and nails. So if you go for the haircut, full dam. Naam. This type of ibadah will get them right, inshallah. Now, if it's genuinely absent-minded, couldn't at all control, they have no recollection of it even. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Then, perfume. This applies to both, and it applies to body or clothes. And for men, you also can't oil the head and the beard. Right? Even if it's not scented, you're not allowed to oil your head and the beard. You must look dusty and disheveled. And you must feel it also. Right? For both sexual activity and everything leading to it. So just stay away from your spouse from the moment you get into ihram until the moment you complete your umrah. The most dangerous period is that period of when you get to the hotel and they tell you, we're going to just have like an hour or two rest and then we're going to meet down in the lobby. Because what happens there, Allah alone knows. But be careful, right? Because people come down, Sheikh, I took a shower and I used the soap and the shampoo and I had a liquor powder on and ghusl gevat. No, be careful. Be careful. Hunting, if you're into that, land game. Hunting land game is not allowed. But you can go fish if you so wish. I didn't mean for that to rhyme. Marriage contract proposal, not allowed. Cutting haram trees, as I said previously, not allowed. And in those cases, also equal fidya, and it would be invalid to, your ihram would be invalid, your umrah would be invalid, and you would have to pay a dam. There's your summary. Now, how does a fidya look? How does the fidya work? A standard fidya is any one of the following. Any one of the following. Either slaughter a sheep for the poor of Makkah. I would estimate that a sheep is going to cost you something like 500 to 700 riyals. Right? That's normally the dam price. Hajj time, it's probably going to be much less umrah time. But that is what I last recall. I stand corrected if anybody has updated knowledge. Then, the second option, which is naturally going to be much cheaper, is to distribute 6.09 liters of food, basically 1.015 liters of food, to 6 poor people in the haram area. Right? liters because it's a volumetric measurement as opposed to that of weight. You take like an ice cream buck size of food, you're covered, right? And you make sure you distribute it to 6 poor people in the haram. Not in the Masjidul Haram, in the haram. You know the difference? Tamam. Minor expiation, 1 hair, 1 nail, we said is 1 penalty. What is 1 penalty? 1 fidya. 1 fidya. That amount that you see there, 0.51, that's a measurement of fidya. To be safe, rather go with 0.75. That's a safer measurement. That's the same calculation we use in Ramadan to calculate the fidya. 1 fidya. 2 hairs, 2 fidyas. 3 or more, full dam. Next point, scented soap and toothpaste and things like that. We've entered into a time of whatever the market wants, the product will be there. So you get a whole ihram kits now. I'm very much against this, right? Ihram is never intended to be an expensive exercise. It's the opposite. Ihram does not require you to get a special soap that says unscented, and a special cream that says unscented, and a special toothpaste that says unscented. That's a money-making scheme. Like most health stuff are money-making schemes. It is like, look, this is the summary of my health thing, right? Whatever you need to be healthy, Allah created inside of you and in the food you eat. You don't need to buy any extra product. That's just taking you for a ride. So the same thing applies here. You don't need to go buy stuff for ihram. It's supposed to be that you can get into ihram with the most cheap thing you have at home, a laken and something like that. That's the idea. But now it's like the ihram packs, and you get this piece and that piece, and it becomes a special gift that somebody buys. Always know that whenever we commercialize things like this, you're excluding someone. You're excluding someone. So no, I don't believe you need non-scented soap. The point is not that the thing must have 0 fragrance. The point is that the thing mustn't be scented. You understand the difference? When you use, I don't know, whatever you use, I'm not going to mention brands because I got in trouble the last time. I said, no, that's on the boycott list. So, whatever soap you use, I'm asking you now, assuming it's not Hugo Boss, and I mentioned a brand. Assuming it's not expensive, right? The ones that you go buy by the perfume shops. I'm asking you, do you go, put that soap on? Oh, I smell good today. It's not used for a scent. It's used for a cleaning product. Even the hand soaps. These things all have a smell. Your Aquas cream has a smell. The Sharia is not asking you to eliminate fragrance. It's asking you to stay away from fragrant things. Things that are scented, perfumed. Right? So please don't overcomplicate things. Naturally, this is not, I should say this. This is my view. This is my view. Right? You're going to have others with far more cautious approaches than what I'm saying. If you like that, bismillah, go for it. So the cautious may use unscented, but the Sharia does not demand expensive ihram safe products. In the past, people did something interesting. They would substitute regular soap for sunlight soap. For the ihram. Now the sunlight soap also has a smell. A very strong one, actually. It's not a pleasant one, though. That's all fine, right? It's all fine. And know this, that if you start, is this, is that, is this, you must remember the principle, certainty is not removed by doubt. You are in ihram, your intention is to stay away from the stuff. Accidents, mistakes, forgetfulness, all of those things, don't let that trouble you. Ignore that, that's waswasa. But learn your knowledge well and be confident therein so that you're not shaken when you get there. Bi'idhnillah. Ladies in hayd. Naam, bismillah. So anytime after you've incurred the penalty, but it must be done in the haram. So you can't wait till you get back home because you need the the specific haram region. Tamam? Women in hayd, this is a big problem. Not women, but women in hayd. In Umrah specifically, it's a big problem because Umrah now is super short. Why is that a problem? In the past, everyone would go for solution one. Solution one, I've got all three in the book, right? Now, so solution one is essentially go into ihram and wait it out. But this assumes that you are going to be in Makkah long enough to wait it out. It's far easier in Hajj than it is in Umrah. So just imagine a lady leaves Medina and she gets a hayd. And she's going to be in Makkah for 6 days. And a hayd lasts 6-7 days. Then what? So waiting in ihram is becoming a problem. Second option, you know the answer already. I've stated it here before. Enter Makkah without ihram. Just don't go in with the intention of Umrah. How? How do you not go in with the intention of Umrah? You go in with a different intention. You're going with the group. You're going with your husband. You're going to go stay overnight at the Hilton, wherever it is you are going. It's not, I know it sounds like it, like a loophole, but it's not a loophole. It is the ruling. Remember, we stated it before. You cannot cross the miqat without ihram if you have the intention of Hajj or Umrah. So simply don't make your intention yet. Then you go live in Makkah with your family, with your group. Now you're a resident of Makkah. When your hayd stops, you go for your ghusl, you go to the nearest hill or whichever hill you want, and there you come in with your ihram. Naturally, there is also the medication option. I kept it on the list for obvious reasons, but I've also kept it last on the list for obvious reasons. I asked Dr. Amira about this, and this is like long ago that I asked about this. The broad advice is to plan months ahead. That's the broad advice. To plan months ahead. So if ladies are going to take medication, it's permissible to do so, but I would advise against any last minute changes. In fact, to be honest with you, I'd prefer that you don't go the route of medication unnecessarily, right? You don't want to mess with stuff like that unnecessarily. But if you have to, it's permissible. Go for it. Just as the advice had come from the doctors, plan ahead. Don't come 1 month before you're going, or 2 months even before you're going. I would also say, avoid going to the nearest pharmacy around the haram and telling them you need something to stop your hayd. They'll give you anything, right? That's just my experience. Don't just go randomly. Go prepared, inshallah. Any questions? Sisters, if you have any questions and you find it embarrassing to ask about this matter, I'd suggest that you get it to me privately, inshallah. You can write it down, you can contact me, you can give it to Shamina. She's not here tonight though. Any questions? Bismillah. Absolutely, because that would be the place for both of you to enter ihram. Doesn't matter that she's doing her first one or the second one, no difference. The ihram site for residents of Makkah is outside of the haram area. Look, let's talk about that when we get to what breaks the wudu in tawaf, rather. But yes, you are. Whether it's advisable or not, that's a different question. But you are allowed. I would say it's advisable if nobody looks. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ says, "At-tawafu bil-bayti salatun, illa anna Allah ahalla fihi al-kalam." I would like you to take a moment to just reflect on this. These are the words of our beloved Messenger, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and the rules come from it. Okay? He says, Tawaf around the house, yani the Kaaba, is Salah. It is Salah. Illa, except أن الله, that Allah, أحل فيه الكلام. Allah had permitted speech therein. That's how we need to remember, or rather, that's how we need to think about Tawaf. It's not just going for a walk. And it's not about the people, and it's not about the words. It's about the state again. It's all about the state, right? You should feel the same khushu' that you're supposed to be feeling in salah. That's the objective. Because Rasulullah ﷺ said that tawaf is salah, except that Allah permitted for you to speak therein. Now, unfortunately, people either they don't learn the rules properly or they don't take it too seriously, but we're going to have to be different, be excellent, aim higher, inshallah. First things first, why are we saying this? We are saying this because we are going to treat tawaf like salah, right? The same conditions that we require for salah, we require for tawaf, right? So wudu. Now, I'm not going to go through the rules of what breaks the wudu in detail, but you know that you must have a valid wudu. The one thing that you are concerned with is the obvious, the touching of a non-mahram, skin-to-skin contact. In the Shafi'i school, even accidental breaks the wudu. There isn't a Shafi'i alive who can maintain this in that tawaf. So don't be difficult, right? What do? We simply adopt the view of the other madhahib. Now, there's options here, and I'll tell you which one I'd prefer. Normally, people just jump for the Hanafi view, which is essentially the opposite. No touch breaks, even a touch with desire. Now, I would advise against that view because it's a bit too flexible for the Shafi'is who have been so restricted all their lives. It's a bit too flexible. Then you get into hand-holding territory, right? I think we need to create some rules. And the Maliki and Hanbali school offers us those rules. They differentiate between a touch with desire and a normal regular touch. So here's my caveat, if your hand-holding can manage to be just normal hand-holding for safety, no problem. But if your hand-holding, goes a bit more than in the mind, then rather don't hold the hands. There you get the discipline from the Hanbali madhab, essentially. It's sort of the middle way between the two. That would be a better approach for us as males. So now in the tawaf, we're not going to touch on purpose, right? But the accidental touches, we will try to avoid them as much as possible. But if it happens, it happens. It's a more cautious approach than anything goes, right? Allah knows best. But of course, people are allowed to follow the views there. I think we should stop on that note, inshallah. I knew it was going to be a lot of fiqh. I did tell you that. But it would be counterproductive for me to force the rest of this in tonight. Do you agree? Should we instead focus on the rest in a separate session and therefore break up the fiqh into 2 sessions as opposed to the one? Okay. Any other questions? The next part is this, knowing the Kaaba, that you can start reading at home also, inshallah. And performing the tawaf, the sa'i, everything else. Let's just go through the Umrah again. Umrah consists of what? 5 parts. The first one is Ihram, then Tawaf, then Sa'i, then Halq and Tartib, the sequence. We've gotten through Ihram, we are busy with the Tawaf, and then we'll carry on, inshallah. Any other questions? Bismillah. Absolutely. Charge, no? No, I'm joking. I can recommend you to a group that has been started specifically for stuff like that. Inshallah. But don't sort out your will because you're going on Umrah. Every Muslim needs to sort out their will, right? It's not only people who go to Makkah that die. So we must all sort out our wills at every given moment. We can die anytime. Any other questions? Bismillah. It's not only okay, it's recommended. It's recommended. Remember, you are not in ihram yet. You are preparing for ihram, even though you have on usual clothing and stuff. And also, if you put on usual roll on and it happens to get onto your clothing after that, that's fine because you're not applying it to your clothing, right? But what you shouldn't do is, perfume your ihram itself. That's a different story. Afwan. Khair, until next week, inshallah. This course was intended to be a 4-part. We may have to make it a 5-part. So just keep that in mind, bi'idhnillah. Because I've now decided to make this adjustment with regards to the fiqh. Okay. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته